Alrighty, let's see what we got today. Plunder. Hasty. Gonna make note on which card it's on. Hasty affects first mate this game. It's not easy to see from the kingdom view. And the other landscape is looting. So in this kingdom, in lieu of buying a gold, you could gain a loot. Not that that situation ever arises in practice. What else is happening here? For draw, there's long ship. There's first mate from a small hand size. Quartermaster kinda sorta constitutes draw. Like you get it in play, and then every other turn it's putting a free card into your hand, which is like plus one card every other turn. That's something. Villages, Longship, Taskmaster, not the turn you play it, but every subsequent turn. As long as you manage to keep it in play, it functions as a village. And then first mate if you're playing multiple action cards. Trashing, Pickaxe, Rope. Grotto is like pseudo trashing because you set stuff aside. And then in the best case scenario with Grotto, you get a pair of them. You set four aside, you draw four extra cards, then you set four aside again, and they just never really get back into your deck. And then plus buy rope, sack of loot, and then the loots that you gain off of sack of loot and pickaxe mostly come with plus buy on them. Oh, and the loots you gain off of looting. So where is this headed? Plunder kingdoms tend to be weird. Uh, One thing to look out for is biphase engines. Super rare in general, but come up with some frequency in Plunder. I don't think that's viable here. You need like figurine or something. Here, in theory, at least, you could like play a first mate from your hand via staff if you happen to get that. But there's no reliable way to guarantee that you get staff as an early loot. It's a 1 in 15 chance. The big upside of staff is you could play all your treasures first, then play staff as your last treasure, then play first mate and draw back up from an empty hand. Uh, that's something. First mate on its own is not a lot of draw. Like if you buy it, you get to play it for free next turn, but from a 5 card hand, that's only drawing you one card, which is worse than usual. I'm not seeing a way to reduce your hand size at start of turn to make the hasty first mate draw more. Like rope trashes cards from your hand, but it draws you a card. So even if you trash, you're only breaking even. You still have a 5 card hand. Uh, Potentially larger if you choose not to trash. Longship anti-synergizes with first mate. Uh, yeah, I don't think there's much to do with first mate. And then how about just a normal action engine? If you draw with longship is like your main source of draw sounds rather uninspiring, especially if you're not in need of the villages. That sounds pretty weak. I'm looking for the thing here that has a big synergy and then you do it and you win. I'm not really seeing it. You can get a stack of taskmasters in play, and the fives aren't bad. Certainly, you would not be unhappy clicking on a number of these fives and then duchies later in the game to keep the taskmasters in play. But if you don't really need the village effect very much, and I don't think that you do here, that's just a really fancy build your own peddler. Going into a lot of work to just get plus one coin per turn per taskmaster. And they're a copper the turn you initially play them, so it's kind of slow. At the moment, I'm leaning towards just get like 2 to 3 quartermasters in play, and then those pick up a bunch of ropes and maybe cabin boys, and then you add in like a sack of loot, maybe a pickaxe, and then you start provincing. And that deck doesn't have total deck control. You're drawing a little bit extra per turn. You have like a 6 or 7 card hand. It probably hits 8 pretty consistently. And then it also threatens to empty on 3 piles. Like the ropes will get. Uh, Actually, ropes will surely empty. The bot loves ropes. Cabin boy could empty, and then you could pile estates potentially. That seems like the main contender at the moment. Just some quartermasters and the $4 durations looks good. Uh, I'm imagining a scenario where you play a grotto first and then play a first mate and draw like 6 actual cards. So imagine you buy First Mate as your first five. It draws you one card for free next turn. Then you add a Grotto soon after. Then you play the First Mate. Then you play the Grotto. You set aside everything. You draw a bunch of cards. That accelerates your deck a bunch in the short term, and maybe that ends up being less useful later. And you could always pickaxe the First Mate later. Uh, there's something there. I'm not sure how reliably you can line it up. Uh, like supposing you add a First Mate and you add a Grotto, how likely are they to be in the same hand? I'm wondering if basically there's enough value in taking a detour into like a copy of First Mate and a Grotto or two. 'Cause if you connect those two, you set them aside, you draw 6 cards, and then you're gonna have like a 9 card hand next turn. That sounds really good. Maybe it's too slow or too unreliable, and you just go straight for Quartermaster. Also a card you tend to want to get early. I'm not sure how to open. Hmm. Seems like the $4 buy ought to be a rope. And the question is silver or grotto. Silver tends to be a little bit better at getting you to 5 on the second shuffle. Grotto would get you to 5 if you find it turn 3. You set aside 2 cards, you draw the remaining 7. Not as great if you see it turn 4. Um, but if you see it turn 4, you set aside 2, you buy a second grotto. Hopefully, see the grotto in your top 7 cards. Pretty likely. Uh, then you set aside a bunch more and go from there. I think I'm leaning towards grotto. I'm not sure it has that much long-term value in the deck, to be honest. If I plan on trashing all the stuff with ropes, I think it just does a lot of work to accelerate the deck. The bot tends to go great. Take a second rope here. Is it going to bottom deck? Please. Oh, well, that's sad. Just take one more rope. I would set aside all 4 here, except I really want to play those ropes even more than I want to set aside 4. Actually, can I guarantee? I don't think so. I was trying to figure out if there's a way to guarantee that I draw this grotto off the top if I buy it now. I think the answer is no. Because resolve the ropes, trash 2 cards, and then the order grotto goes is it discards first and then draws. So if I had triggered the shuffle already, it would work out nicely, but I couldn't get to the end of my shuffle. And so the grotto is down there. Okay. Bot bought a sack of loot 1/6. Hmm. I mean, sack of loot is a card I think I would like to have in this deck. I think it's lower priority than the first mate and the quartermaster stuff. I think I like buying first mate first. It'll draw me a free card. We'll get that grotto set up. Well, hmm. It's like if I buy it now, draw 1 card next turn. I play that grotto, then I have like a 9 card hand. I play a first mate, a grotto, set aside 4. I would draw a bunch of cards there. My deck seems. I think I'm actually going to buy a sack of loot, perhaps. I'm imagining this scenario where I add a first mate, and I think my deck is just too thin and sparse at the moment to benefit from all the draw. So I probably do need to put some more loops in it. Never like to see Grotto, 2 copies of it in the same hand. Because if you set it aside on the Grotto, it often misses the shuffle. I think that's what I'm going to have to do here, though. Do I want to play this? I think I'd rather just draw more cards. Okay, 1, 2, 3. I think I'm just going to set aside 3. You need a compelling reason not to set aside all 4. The more you can set aside, the better, for sure. But here, hitting 5, I think, makes a big difference. I'll take that first mate now. This is not the order I foresaw this going. There was a little bit of awkwardness with the order the grottos came in. Maybe that's the explanation. I was expecting to get first mate a little bit sooner, then some quartermasters a little bit sooner. I didn't anticipate getting a sack of loot so early. Then maybe that's correct. It is what the bot's doing. Let's draw a card. Trash. That was actually probably a bad order. Maybe it won't matter. Yeah, I draw everything anyway. Okay, let's set aside 4 cards. And buy a quartermaster, probably. Hmm. Alternative would be setting aside 3 and taking a second stack of loot. I don't think that's actually a good loot for me to get at this point. Um, because I did just kind of want more stuff in the deck. Anyways, I don't think I'm going to maintain deck control long enough to really need a huge amount of loot, because I'm only going to be seeing like 6 or so anyway. The bot's already hitting 16. Wow. Uh, oh, you know what I missed? And I'm just now realizing, and I wonder if I had the opportunity to take advantage of it. I was thinking of a first mate, the first turn you play it, as always drawing you 1 card. And I just kind of forgot you'd be able to play a card for free at the start of your turn. Okay, that. Hmm. I'm gonna have to go back and look and think if I made an obvious mistake on one of these earlier turns. But if you know you have a grotto coming up, you can just buy a first mate, play the grotto from hand with the first mate, and then you're gonna draw like 6 at the start of your turn, which makes the interaction a little bit better than I thought it was. Okay. Awkwardly, don't have the coppers in hand. How do I do this? So I could just set aside the first mate, or I could set aside a bunch of this stuff, which is going to draw me some worse cards, but at least draws me cards now and then draws me cards again in the future. I think it's probably worth at least setting aside the ropes. I don't mind playing those next turn instead of now. And then I can first make Quartermaster. That'll draw me 2 cards. I don't think I care badly enough to set aside another card. Let's see, this is 10 money. It would be 7 money if I set something aside. 7 versus 10 does kind of sound like a big difference. Hmm. The bot has a Taskmaster for some reason. Curious. No, it's not 7 versus 10. If I set aside 2, I hit 12 because I draw 2 coppers. If I set aside 3, I hit 10 because I draw 3 coppers. 10 versus 12. I think I kind of want a province already. Because I don't think this deck is going all that far. In my ideal world, I get more quartermasters in play, but I think it's a little bit late for that. So I think I have to do this, and then 12 is like a province plus a cabin boy or something. Spell Scroll seems like an excellent loot to get here. Well, actually, maybe not. Shoot. I was gonna say Spell Scroll is generally great with draw to X cards, like First Mate, because you can play it at the end of your buy phase after getting all your treasures into play. So you play every other treasure, you play Spell Scroll last, play it as a First Mate, and then you draw yourself a huge number of cards. The trouble here is, in terms of the order of operations, Hasty is an on-gain trigger. So you gain the first mate, and then when you gain it, you set it aside. Spell Scroll, it's 2 different steps. Step 1, trash this to gain a cheaper card, period. Then step 2, if it's an action or treasure, you may play it. In terms of the window that those are happening in, you trash this to gain a cheaper card, and then right there, in the middle of Spell Scroll, all the win gain effects are going to trigger off of that gain. The first mate would set itself aside, and then Spell Scroll would try to play it from your discard pile, and it would fail because the first mate's already been set aside. And this is not something that happens at the same time as the win gain effect, so you don't get to choose the order. So that would actually be pretty sad. I think there's still value to that. You could play it as another quartermaster, just get a quartermaster and play for free non-terminally. If I get a staff, then I could play that as sack of loot and then play the staff. I don't know. I'm just gonna buy a province and a cabin boy, and we'll see what I do with it based on the hand. The bot is hitting obscene numbers over there. Is there something I'm missing? How is it drawing so many cards? Okay, it's doing the first mate grotto thing. Okay, okay. Maybe I should get in on that. Let's type a cabin boy. First mate. 1, 2, 3. And I'm kind of inclined to set aside the sack of loot. The game is close to over, and sack of loot's a copper this turn. I'm not sure I care enough about having a loot in my deck next turn to really need to pass up a draw now. Okay, what do I most want from my spell scroll? I'm looking at 10 money in hand right now. I could get a second quartermaster in play. Again, it's a little bit late for that to do a whole lot. Maybe it exiles some duchies. I mean, that is something. Uh, my discard pile, I believe, is just 2 ropes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I played this as a cabin boy, I would draw 1 rope now. Gets me to 11, which is not an important number, but it does get a rope and a cabin boy in play, which could be significant for next turn. And then I'm probably hitting a big number next turn. Kind of liking this idea of gaining a first mate now. So if I find my grotto in hand, I set aside a bunch of stuff and draw back up to 6, which sounds pretty good. To get to a first mate now, I would need 3 more money, or I could turn it into a tools and gain the first mate off of tools. That's probably just worse, isn't it? Turning spell scroll into a gold is just a little bit sad. It just you're turning the loot into the thing that is just a loot with no bonuses. But it might just be the answer here if I need to hit 13 precisely. I think I'd rather have a gold in my deck next turn than a tools. It's a little bit late to be gaining additional engine pieces. Uh, there's nothing else here that gets me to 3 money this turn, is there? I'm not seeing it. I mean, I can gain a pickaxe and trash the province, but I don't think I want to do that. So I turn this into a gold on my province first mate. Provinces are at 5. I'm probably credibly threatening double province next turn. I don't know about probably not triple province. That's a little fantastical. Not winning next turn, just doing double province though. Hmm. Still seems right to me. Feels like there should be more to do here, but I'm just not seeing it. Okay, this looks like a pretty good hand, I think. That's an interesting set of buys. What are you doing over there? A duchy and 2 coppers? Set aside 2 cards. Didn't gain a first mate. We don't exactly know what the plan is. Take the 2 coins now. Hasty. Set aside. I think just the 2 is fine. I'd rather play these now. Draw 2 more cards. I think I'm just gonna tuck an estate. If I gain a cabin boy now, I have to play it next turn and then benefit from the money in 2 turns. I mean, you kind of benefit from the draw next turn because it's giving you a 6-card hand. But that doesn't sound super impactful. I think I just want the points. This first mate ain't doing a whole lot. And I don't think the bot's doing triple province. So I'm just going to click 2 provinces. And another grotto, I think. The grottos do have some nice synergy with the first mate that I really overlooked. Alrighty, grotto first. Trash a card. So untuck that. Well, that's not a very good draw. The hope was first mate plays the Cabin Boys, draws either of the 2 grottos I have down there. I put an extra one in my deck even just to be extra safe. And then first mate plays a grotto, sets aside like copper, rope, province, and then I draw a bunch of cards again. But no dice. Well, shoot. All of a sudden, now this looks a little bit scary again. This was not a great turn. 1 province here does not feel safe because 1 province loses to like 2 provinces and a duchy or 2 provinces and 2 estates. That's 20 money, which doesn't sound easy, but also does not sound beyond the pale either. Hmm. I think I'm going to buy a first mate here just because I've got those 2 grottos coming up and I don't trust that hand. But if I can play the grotto and set a bunch aside, then that's going to be nice. I really want to get another turn because I'm going to have the Cabin Boys in play next turn. I think I'm just going to buy a Cabin Boy here. Nothing here really benefits me all that much. I don't expect the Cabin Boy to matter in time, but everything else I think is looking kind of proactively bad at this stage. Taskmaster and Rope are likely to be coppers next turn, and I don't think I have time to benefit from them in 2 turns. If I get 2 turns, Cabin Boy's going to help anyway, but it doesn't have as much of a... Yeah, look at this hand. I'm so glad about that first mate. Play this, set aside a bunch of cards. There is some room for keeping this grotto in hand in case I draw into another first mate, but I do have another grotto down there. And also there's no guarantee I find said first mate. Now all of a sudden I'm hoping that I do. Well, look at that. Okay. Uh, and I've got a staff now, which would be phenomenal if I find a first mate in hand. Okay, well, I think 2 provinces looks pretty safe here, right? The bot's going to need a province to get to 28 plus 4 duchies, which there aren't even 4 duchies in the pile. So province, 3 duchies, 2 estates. That sounds hard to do. Please don't do that. Yeah, not particularly close. Okay, yeah, this kingdom is above my pay grade, I think. Uh, I think the bot was onto something with the grottos and the first mates, and I think I noticed it at the beginning. Let the record reflect. I did think about grotto and first mate, and I did do it a little bit. I was thinking you just get like a first mate. You do that 1 time, lining them up in the same hand, and then that kicks off some quartermaster stuff. Uh, I undervalued. Hey, I just like didn't even notice. I don't know why. I can't explain a good reason for it. I just didn't notice that the first mate could play the grotto from your starting hand, which makes that initial first mate play from the hasty effect way better than I was giving credit for. I was just doing it as +1 card, and if you have a grotto in your hand, it's as much as like +4, +5. Uh, and then also the reliability of like lining that up in subsequent turns was happening way more often than I had anticipated. So I really like this, and uh, kind of took advantage of Hardbot tipping me off on the value there. Uh, with hindsight, I'd probably be thinking about this a little bit more, a little bit earlier. I'm surprised Quartermaster ended up not being that relevant. It does look good here. Like the Cabin Boys are good, the ropes are good. Maybe I just wasn't getting to 5 fast enough. I did, and I also took a sack of loot on my first $5 hand. Uh, I can certainly see Quartermaster being more relevant than it was. The bot loves Quartermaster and loves rope and just didn't touch either here. I'm not sure what happened to the bots deck later. Uh, like the grottos and the first mates look nice to me. The early sack of loot I think looks fine. Uh, but then it started buying coppers and duchies, and its deck just fell apart. I don't know why it has a Taskmaster, and I wonder if the Taskmaster is the reason it was buying all the duchies just to keep the singular Taskmaster in play. If you want one of these, you usually want a bunch. You got to really commit to the bit, and the bot didn't. Things went awry here. I think the bot noticed an interesting early synergy and then crashed into a wall somehow.